Malachi Edward had exactly 7 words that could silence a room full of Manhattan's elite. My daughter Lilian is with me tonight. But when billionaire heiress Victoria Ashford turned from the charity gala's champagne fountain and locked eyes with the man who'd just spoken those words, calmly, deliberately, like he was defusing a bomb, she felt something she hadn't experienced in her 32 years of calculated loneliness, the ground shifting beneath her Louboutins. Because the little girl clutching his hand wasn't just any child. She was the mirror image of the daughter Victoria had given up for adoption 9 years ago. Welcome to Kindness Arena. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unseen connections that change lives, please help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers. Help me show her that stories like this matter and deserve to be heard by hitting the subscribe button, liking the video, comment your thoughts, where you are watching from, and share it with someone who needs it to stay motivated. Your support keeps these powerful, true stories alive. The Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom glittered with old money and new ambition. Victoria Ashford stood at table 17, her champagne untouched, her emerald gown and armor of silk and sequins. She'd perfected the art of looking engaged while feeling utterly hollow, a skill honed over 3 decades of attending events exactly like this one. Victoria, darling, you simply must meet. She wasn't listening to Margaret Pemberton's introduction. Her entire world had contracted to a single point across the room. A tall man in a perfectly tailored but off-the-rack suit, holding the hand of a girl with dark curls and eyes the exact shade of amber that Victoria saw in her mirror every morning. The man was moving toward her table. Not rushing, not hesitating. Just coming. Like gravity had its own plans. "Excuse me," Victoria heard herself say, cutting off Margaret mid-sentence. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but watch as Malachi Edward. She didn't know his name yet, but she'd learn it soon enough, approached with that strange, preternatural calm that made everyone else in the room seem frantic by comparison. "Ms. Ashford," he said when he reached her. His voice was low, measured. Not a question, a statement. "We need to talk about something important." But first, he glanced down at the girl beside him, whose thumb was tucked in her mouth despite being clearly too old for it. Lilian wanted to see the ice sculpture. "Would you mind walking with us?" Victoria's throat closed. "A what?" "The swan," the little girl said, removing her thumb long enough to speak. "Daddy said it's made of 20 blocks of ice, and they carved it with chainsaws, and it won't melt for 6 hours because of the temperature control," and she stopped, suddenly shy, pressing closer to her father's leg. Malachi's hand settled on her shoulder, protective, gentle. "Breathe, Lilybug. Remember what we practiced?" The girl nodded, took a breath, started again slower. "I really like swans. May I please see it?" Every instinct screamed at Victoria to run, to make an excuse, to protect herself from whatever this was. Instead, she found herself saying, "Of course." They walked through the crowd, Malachi, Lilian, and Victoria, a strange trinity that drew curious glances. Victoria Ashford never walked anywhere at these events. She held court. She commanded. She certainly didn't trail after single fathers and their daughters like some kind of. "You're her," Malachi said quietly as they reached the swan sculpture. Lilian had darted ahead, her patent leather shoes clicking on marble. "Aren't you?" Victoria's pulse hammered. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." He wasn't looking at her. He was watching Lilian trace patterns in the condensation on the ice barrier. "I've been looking for you for 3 months. Ever since Lily's adoption records were accidentally unsealed during a legal issue with the agency. I saw your name. Victoria Ashford. Birth mother. Relinquishment date. March 15th, 2016. The room tilted. "You're her. You adopted. When she was 6 weeks old. My wife Sarah and I." His jaw tightened. "Sarah died 2 years ago. Car accident. Drunk driver. She didn't suffer." "I'm sorry," Victoria whispered automatically. "Don't be sorry. Be honest." Now he did look at her, and his eyes were the color of storm clouds, gray and uncompromising. "Are you Lilian's birth mother?" Across the room, Lilian was trying to count the swan's feathers, her lips moving silently. She'd lost count twice and started over both times, patient with herself in a way that made Victoria's chest ache. Yes, she breathed. Yes, I am. Malachi nodded once. Then we need to talk. Really talk. Because Lilian has been asking questions about you for 6 months, and I promised her that if I ever found you, I'd let her decide what happened next. She's 9 years old. She can't. She can decide if she wants to know you. His voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. That's the only decision I'm letting her make. Everything else, that's between you and me. They found a private alcove off the main ballroom. Lilian sat between them on a velvet bench, drawing invisible patterns on her dress, while Malachi explained how they'd gotten here. The agency called it clerical error, he said, but I think someone wanted the truth to come out. Maybe they thought 9 years was long enough for secrets. He glanced at Victoria. Were you 17 when you had her? 16 when I got pregnant. 17 when I gave birth. Victoria's hands twisted in her lap. My father said I had 2 choices, abortion or adoption. He wasn't giving me a third option. I was supposed to take over Ashford Industries someday. Teen pregnancy didn't fit the narrative. Lilian's head tilted. Did you want to keep me? The question was so direct, so achingly hopeful, that Victoria nearly shattered. Every single day, she whispered. I held you for 4 hours after you were born. They let me do that much, and I counted your fingers and your toes, and I memorized your face, and then I signed the papers because I thought. Her voice cracked. I thought I was doing what was best for you, giving you a real family, real parents who could give you everything I couldn't. You gave me everything, Malachi said quietly. You gave me my daughter. Victoria looked at him, then really looked, saw the shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and homework help and doctor's appointments. Saw the careful way he kept one hand always within Lilian's reach. Saw the man who'd raised her daughter alone for 2 years and was still standing. Why are you being kind to me? She asked. You could hate me. You could. I could do a lot of things. He leaned back, still calm, still centered. But Lily asked me a question 6 months ago that changed everything. She said, Daddy, do you think my birth mother ever wonders about me? And I realized I'd been so focused on being enough for her that I'd forgotten she might need more than just me. You're enough, Victoria said fiercely. You're more than enough. Maybe. He smiled slightly. But she's been lonely. Haven't you, Lilybug? Lilian nodded. All my friends have mommies. I know I had Mommy Sarah, but I don't remember her very much anymore, and that makes me sad, and Daddy says that's okay, but... She looked at Victoria with those amber eyes. Do you get lonely too? Something in Victoria's chest. Yes, she admitted. Every day. Then maybe we could be lonely together sometimes? Lilian's voice was small, hopeful. Daddy says you don't have to be my mommy if you don't want to. You could just be Victoria. But maybe we could have tea? I like tea parties. Daddy tries, but he always forgets which cup is mine. Malachi raised his hands in surrender. I've apologized for that 6 times. 7. Lilian corrected, then giggled. And just like that, Victoria saw it, the life she could have. Not the one she'd lost 9 years ago, but a new one. Different. Complicated. Real. I would love to have tea with you, she said. As many tea parties as you want. Later, after Lilian had fallen asleep in a private room upstairs, her head on Malachi's lap, Victoria and Malachi talked in earnest. I don't know how to do this, Victoria admitted. I've spent 9 years building walls, running companies, being alone because it was easier than explaining why I gave away my baby. You didn't give her away. Malachi's correction was gentle but firm. You made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. There's a difference. Is there? Ask Lilian in 10 years. I think she'll tell you yes. He stroked his daughter's hair absently. But here's what I need you to understand, Victoria. I'm her father. That doesn't change. Whatever relationship you build with her, it exists alongside mine, not instead of it. I know that. I would never. I know you wouldn't. Not on purpose. He met her eyes. But she's going to love you. She already wants to, and when she does, you can't disappear. You can't decide it's too hard or too complicated or too messy. Because if you leave her once, she'll survive. If you leave her twice, it'll break something in her that I can't fix. The weight of his words settled over Victoria like a benediction and a warning. I won't leave, she promised. I left once because I thought I had to. I won't make that mistake again. Malachi studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, then here's what I propose. You come to Sunday brunch next week. No pressure, no big revelations. Just pancakes and orange juice and getting to know each other. Lily can show you her rock collection and her terrible attempts at origami. We'll see how it feels. Just like that. Just like that. He smiled, a real smile this time, one that transformed his entire face. I've learned something these past 2 years, Victoria. Life's too short for complicated things when simple will do. Lily wants to know you. You want to know her. I'm okay with facilitating that. Everything else we'll figure out as we go. Victoria felt something unfurl in her chest, something that felt dangerously like hope. Sunday brunch, she repeated. I can do that. Good. He glanced down at Lilian, then back at Victoria. One more thing. She's going to ask you why you're crying. What are you going to tell her? Victoria hadn't realized tears were streaming down her face. She wiped them away, laughing shakily. The truth. That I'm happy. That I've been lonely for a long time, and now maybe I don't have to be. Yeah, Malachi said softly. Me too. Victoria stood outside Malachi's brownstone in Brooklyn, holding a box of pastries from Lillian's favorite bakery. Malachi had texted her the name, and trying to remember how to breathe. The door opened. Lilian stood there in pajamas covered in smiling dinosaurs, her hair wild, her grin wider. You came, she shouted, then caught herself. Welcome. Would you like some orange juice? Behind her, Malachi appeared, wearing an apron that said, Dad jokes loading, and holding a spatula. Fair warning, he called out. I burned the first batch of pancakes. Only a little bit burned, Lillian stage whispered. It's okay. We can scrape off the black parts. Victoria laughed, really laughed for the first time in 9 years. I'd love some orange juice, she said, stepping inside. And slightly burned pancakes sound perfect. As the door closed behind her, she caught Malachi's eye. He gave her a small nod, a quiet acknowledgement. You're here. You showed up. That's what matters. And in that moment, standing in a Brooklyn brownstone that smelled like burned pancakes and fresh hope, Victoria Ashford realized something profound. She'd spent 9 years building an empire to fill the void where her daughter should have been. Now, finally, she was building something better. A family. Not the traditional kind. Not the easy kind, but the real kind, the kind that forms when 3 lonely people find each other and decide that together is better than apart. Malachi flipped a pancake. Lilian narrated the process with serious enthusiasm. Victoria poured orange juice and felt her heart, so carefully guarded for so long, finally begin to thaw. She's with me, Malachi had said that first night. And now, miraculously, impossibly, blessedly, she was with both of them. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness is never wasted, and that even broken path can lead to beautiful places and change of lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Arena because your support keeps stories like this alive and spreading. Tell us in the comment what you would have done differently if you were the single daddy. Would you have showed her the daughter? Or has a stranger's kindness ever changed your life in ways you didn't expect? We'd love to hear your story.